Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Bannockburn Stories. Boy, am I excited today because I got Casey Carlson on the couch, and I love saying your name. You know, ladies and gentlemen, Casey Carlson. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But Casey and I have known each other for a while, but you've been a part of Bannockburn for 19 years.
That's right.
I met you a long time ago back in 8th grade when you came to my camp, but we'll get to that in a second. Casey, man, I'm so excited having you on the couch today to share your story. Tell me a little bit about your early childhood.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and thanks for having me. I love getting to share what God's done in my life. And it's obviously means a lot to me for sure. Right. But yeah, I was born in Dallas. My mom and dad, my biological father, I should say, and you'll understand why I'm saying that. He wasn't the best, right? Not the greatest husband material, not the greatest father material. And they divorced when I was 2. Right. So after that, it was just kind of me and my mom. She was married a couple times in the next few years. Right. And we bounced around basically everywhere from like Waco to Dallas on I-35. I've lived in the first 13 years of my life. I lived in 14 different places. Right. And so it was just really a byproduct of my mom trying to make ends meet, and that was tough for me. But I think the hardest thing was just never feeling truly like I had a dad, right? And so that was kind of the theme, I would say, of my childhood, right? Like my mom loves the Lord, and she got me hooked on gospel music, right? Those of us who are worshiping here at Bannockburn, especially South Austin campus, know I love me some gospel music, right? But I never really felt necessarily like I was someone's son, I know I was my mom's son, but as a boy, right, especially a young boy and becoming a young man, I never really had that father figure, so to speak.
Did he left?
Well, actually, it was a little bit more dramatic than that.
Okay.
I think he was kicked out. So he had substance abuse issues and was unfaithful as well. So
okay, so he left the family pretty early on. But how old were you when he got kicked out?
I was 2.
You were 2 years old.
2 years old.
And your mom's now raising you as a single mom.
That's right.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
Not at the time.
Okay, not at the time. So just you. Mm-hmm. And y'all just had to make ends meet, like you said, and keep it on, I guess.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and you just said it, you were feeling this, fatherlessness, and every young man, every boy, every man, they need that father figure in their lives. And as personally, I know this. And so how were you dealing with that? Like, were you acting up? Do you feel like you had some anger issues or anything like that when you're kind of walking through that?
Sure. Yeah. I think the way that I saw it in my life was, kind of this promise of, those couple husbands that my mom had, right? Kind of this idea, oh, maybe this guy will be my dad. And then that didn't work out. And then I'd act out. I think I was a really poor student. From the age of, from 4th grade on to junior year in high school. It was tough for me. There at the end, it was more about just catching up, right? But yeah, I felt like I was constantly being picked on, kind of always had this victim mentality, right? Never felt like I fit in with my friends who, had a dad and had a family and had, siblings and that sort of thing. And, I also, there were years, especially in adolescence, where I was really lashing out at my mom, just, really saying some terrible things that I didn't mean. And it really came out.
Yeah, a lot of that does happen. I mean, and again, we're have similar backgrounds in this,
Sure.
Growing up fatherless,
Right.
Or having different men and different things. And I know for me, it was anger. I had a lot of anger built up, and it's crazy how many times that we will hurt the people closest to us that love us the most.
Yeah.
For me, I would hurt my grandmother. I would, hurt my mom because I was just so angry. And you said it a minute ago, it's that disappointment. This man would come in, you're thinking this is the one, a father figure, but then they wouldn't be what we thought they were supposed to be.
Right.
And then we see these other families that sit around a table and pray together, or sit around and have this father throwing a ball in the yard. I don't know how many times I drove by and watched the dad throw a ball with his son and go, I want that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sure you walked through and felt that as well.
Sure, yeah. A lot of my friends, especially in like elementary and middle school, they had that father figure, and I will say, to my mom's credit, I think she sought help from like our church community. My granddaddy, who he's no longer with us, he loved me to death, and I always knew that when I went to spend the summers with my grandparents in Waco, that was home, that was safe, right? But that was only a few months out of the year, right? And sometimes only like 1 month, right? Depending on schedules. I had a lot of friends who, they had something and I really wanted it, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people go through that. So when would you say the turning point? When was this turning point of where God really started to move in your life, showing you himself, or showing you, I know you got saved at a young age, but when you really started seeking him and where he came into your life to show you that, he is the father to the fatherless.
Yeah, you're right. I was saved at the age of 7. And I definitely can see the Lord's hand in my life, along the way. And by the grace of God, there are a lot of things that I didn't get into that I very much could have. I think the real turning point, though, was that summer after 8th grade. I was about to go into high school, and was really, really acting out, end of 7th and through 8th grade. And I really just was like feeling at this rock bottom, this kid about to become a man, and really didn't even know what that meant. I'd had some strong father figures, in passing, but never really that were investing in me. And so I had a friend who invited me to Wild Week Camp.
Hold on. Wild Week Camp.
Wild Week Camp.
I think I might have heard of this camp.
That's
of course,
right.
I was there. This is how we first, I guess, met in a way. But you came Bannockburn with Charlie Harrisberger.
That's right.
Brought a whole bunch of students to my camp.
That's correct.
Over in, I want to say it was Columbus.
It was Columbus,
Yes,
Texas.
right. Columbus, Texas.
Yeah.
Memories. I did that camp for 19 years. And so I remember when Bannockburn came several years in a row. And so you were there one night.
I was there, yeah. And like I said, I've always had a love for music. I was never very good at it when I was younger. But there was this moment when one of the worship leaders was explaining one of the songs, right? And I think you just shared your testimony. And I thought, well, that guy, first off, his name is Casey, and I was like, "Hey, how cool is that?"
We had a connection right off the bat.
Let's be honest,
My name was Casey. Your name was Casey. That's right.
And he grew up without a dad, and now he's a dad, right? And he's this awesome man of God, and I saw that and I thought, okay, God can redeem, right? Like I can kind of see that. Wow. And then the worship leader was explaining he had a similar experience, right? And he had written this song where it just kind of walks you through, like corporately, how, we're asking God to hold us and be our father and be our daddy, right? And I just had this moment. It was this moment of breakthrough, this moment of release. And I realized I've been so like bitter and felt like such a victim my whole life because I didn't have a father. And I'd had a father all the way through, you know? And so that was a huge realization for me. And I think that began a call to ministry in my life. It began.
And you got called to ministry at camp.
That's right. Yeah.
At camp.
Yeah.
We have to say what that song was because it is actually one of my all-time favorite songs.
Right.
And I can't say that I remember that night because it was, of course, a long time ago, and I've had thousands of camps since then. But I do know that song, and I do know that song was played multiple times when I would share my story because of that. And it was called "Embrace This Place."
That's right.
One of my all-time favorite worship songs I think ever written.
It's really good.
It really is so good. And but it's about that embrace. And I think we all need that. I'd say heavenly embrace. It's our Abba Father, our Daddy, wrapping His arms around us, basically saying, "I got you." Right. And I know that means so much for me. And so you get surrendered to the ministry, and then you come home from camp, like so many teenagers do. You come home from camp. Walk me through a little bit of that, just that transformation. God did something big, you know, and you made some decisions and say, "Yay, God," and you get home.
Yeah, so I got home and I told my mom, "Hey, I've had a big experience." At this point, she had been dating this man named Randolph Carlson. I wasn't crazy about my mom dating, right? But I just kind of shared with her and shared with him, and it became clear that there was just so much like healing and release, right? There was a change. I had a desire to read my Bible rather than feeling like it was a chore, right? I started to really engage in worship, and I don't want to say that like just overnight I could sing, right? That wasn't what happened, right? It was a long process of working really hard at the craft. But I picked up the guitar, started playing, and just tried to get better and better. And like things were just starting to develop in my life, right? Like personally and relationally, and developmentally, right? So that's really when I could see God was also blossoming that relationship with my mom and Randolph Carlson, who, if you know my name, I was born Casey Hamill. A few years later, after he married my mom, and I asked my permission, which is really cool, I took his name. He adopted me when I was 17.
Wow. And so is this something that you asked for, or did he come to you and say, hey, I want to adopt you and have you take my last name?
Good question. I don't remember exactly how that developed, but I know that it wasn't like a, hey, please, will you? It was more of something that just kind of naturally developed out of, this family that God had grafted together.
Very cool. Now you said you had to go to court?
That's right. Yeah. So, and it was really fun because at the time I was drum major at Austin High.
Okay.
Right. And so, like I was leading my peers and kind of, God had started to foster some of that leadership ability. Right. And I go in front of this judge, come to find out that judge, he's one of the band parents at school, right? And so here I am, the drum major, directing the whole band, and his daughter is our drum captain, who's like leading the drum line, right? And so I go in front of him, and he goes, "Casey, what are you doing? Like, you're a grown man. What are you doing in front of me? Like, my kids look up to you." Like, why are you here? And I just told him, I just figure if God sees us as a family, the state of Texas should recognize it as well.
Very cool.
He got a kick out of that.
And what a testimony, right? A testimony to anybody in that courtroom.
Right.
Right. So if you were to sum up your story, and now we're kind of talking to those who are watching this right now, what would you say to somebody who may have felt like you felt,
Sure.
maybe grew up without a dad, or grew up in that sense of, like you said again, that victim mentality, and how would you sum up your story to who you are now, a great man of God who loves the Lord, has a great family, leads worship, to get to that place, how would you sum that up in just the best you can?
Yeah, I would say that while I did feel that way, right, I felt like I was abandoned or neglected or forgotten. He was there all the time. And what I needed to do was recognize his fatherhood, right, and that he had always been pursuing me. Once I put my head on his chest, once I let him draw me near, that's when I really started to understand my value and my identity, and started to see who he had called me to be. And I got to walk in that and have that kind of confidence in life. And so I would say, just trust that you are a child of the King. You are his, regardless of how you feel, and keep going. Put your head on his chest, rest in him, and just know the one who has called you, he's faithful, and he will do it. And just as long as we're faithful, he's going to reveal amazing things through us.
Amen. So good. What a great story. And thank you for sharing that today. And I love how probably people watching this don't know, but you just were dropping some lines from Embrace This Place.
That's right. I was quoting the song.
If you know the song, I picked up on those lines.
Good.
There,
good.
Embrace This Place. He says, hold us hold us by the hand. Talks about just resting our head on his chest and letting him embrace us. And so that's really what it's about, isn't it?
Yep.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Bannockburn Stories.